Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Beatrice, and I welcome you to my Journey Faithful Compassion Hub. Today, I want to take you on a journey into something truly profound: how wisdom, the Holy Spirit, the Master's love works in our daily lives. Have you ever had an experience where an answer just came to you, like a whisper from the universe, or a moment where you felt a presence guiding you, showing you exactly what you needed? That's not just coincidence. That's soul's connection to the divine. And today, through Harold Clem's powerful teachings, I want to open your eyes to the hidden spiritual forces that always works in our life, whether we see them or not.
True wisdom, I think it's fair to say that true wisdom comes through right experience. And I mean the right kind of experience, experiences that lead us through life to a higher state of consciousness. And Eckes wrote in, and she was mentioning something that happened to her way back years ago, 20 years before she became a member of ECK. She'd been a member of ECK for 5 years when the incident that occurred that I'll mention here. Now, this happened long before the woman was an Eckist, and she was working with children in a summer camp. One of the children was a 5-year-old. He was very inquisitive, good imagination, everything else. But he was impatient, and if there was something he couldn't do, he'd become very upset. He'd become angry, and then he'd pick a fight, and the next thing he'd say, "I'm hungry. I want to eat." So she knew the routine. He gets angry, he fights, he gets hungry. So she's trying to figure out, how can I help this child? So she's thinking about it. And so she quieted within herself, just very, very quietly. This was before ECK. And she just listened, trying to think, maybe there's a way. Is there a way? And then as she became still, she heard this very beautiful sound, and there seemed to be colors around this sound. Well, she couldn't explain it, but that's how it seemed. Now, this child seemed to have noticed something. He came up, put his ear to her heart, and said, "I hear a flute." And he began to shout. He said, "I hear a flute, and I could see colors, beautiful colors." Now, this child could see and hear what this woman could, but neither of them knew they were hearing and seeing the sound and light of ECK, or of the Holy Spirit. Now, the Holy Spirit is the voice of God, and the Creator speaks to His creation through the light and sound. Yes, of course, at lower levels, this light and sound will manifest and come into a matrix, sometimes as a master, sometimes as an angel. Yes, that's so. But in the highest, purest form of this communication between God and soul, it will come as light and sound. And then Fred wrote a letter. He wasn't an Eckist, but he told of an experience that happened that convinced him that there probably was something to Eckankar and Hugh and soul travel, and maybe something even to the spiritual eye. Well, he and his wife lived in Canada. His wife had come from Germany. And so after a while, they had become settled in Canada. They decided to go back to Germany and pack up her belongings there. So they made the trip. They packed everything in boxes, and his wife had told him, "You take care of everything in the office and mark the box as office. Take care of the files and whatever else you find in there." So Fred went to it and put everything in boxes. And in the front room of their home, there were rows and rows of boxes stacked high to the ceiling. And so they'd been at this about a day or so, and his wife says, "Oh, by the way, did you happen to see the file, a certain file? I have a property I need that file on." Fred says, "No." He said, "I don't know anything about the files. You just said pack them. I didn't read them." And so she said, "We're just going to have to find that." And so now these office boxes are mixed in all with the rest of the other boxes. And so as they have time, they're pulling these boxes down, and now they're within 3 days of having to find that box and finish packing. And they can't find it. They've gone through these boxes. Well, this goes on until the night before the moving company is going to come and pick this stuff up. And she says to him, "I know how we can find it." Now it was late at night, and he was so tired. Poor Fred was so tired. He said, "What?" She said, "Come in here to the couch, we'll sit down, and we'll do a contemplation." He said, "What?" Because she hadn't talked to him too much about contemplation or anything. She said, "We'll sing Hugh." He'd heard about Hugh, the holy name for God. He'd heard about it just one time before. But he was too tired to argue. So he sat down on the couch with his wife, and she said, "Put your attention at the spiritual eye, which is back in the center of your head, right through here about." And so they do it, and he felt just slight pressure up there. And then suddenly, just as clearly as a slide projector throwing a picture up on a white screen, he saw the box. He saw the row, and he saw where it was in the row. They came out of contemplation, and he said to his wife, "I know where the box is." So they went into the room, and it was second row, and as far as he remembered as he was writing it now, he said, third box back from the wall at a certain height. They had to go digging in there. And he said, "And you'll find that the file is upside down in the box. That's why you couldn't find it." So they looked in the box, and his wife found the file. It was upside down, pulled it out, and this was the very file they had been looking for all this time. And of course they were both astounded, even his wife, who was the eckist and who knew all about Hugh. Well, then first Fred thought, well, maybe this was just partly something that my mind was in my subconscious mind. That's where it was, dear. It was in my subconscious mind. And she said, "But you didn't open the file. You don't even know where it was." And Fred said, "That's right. You're right, dear." You know, what's a husband to say? But he got to thinking. He said, "You know, she's told me about soul travel and Ekankar, and maybe there's just something to it." Now, the Master's love shows up in different ways. Harriet is an Ekist from Ghana in Africa. She was in the United States at the time that she told me about the situation that had happened at home. She explained about her family. She and her husband, the father, they had 6 children. 4 were Ekist and 2 were Christian. Because Ekankar is making great inroads in Africa, and of course there is this split in the families, even back as occurred during the time of Christ. And then he said something to the effect that I have not, come to bring peace, but to set father against son, and so on, all these things, which isn't spoken of too often, but he was trying to speak of the division that happens in families when truth of a higher nature comes into a culture that has become fixed or frozen in time. There are going to be sparks. It's like a cold front moving into a geographical area and causing all sorts of storms. There's going to be a storm. And this is what Christ was talking about. Well, it happened too in Harriet's family. At some point, their eldest son came to him and said to the parents he would like to become a Christian minister. He'd like to go to the school. Well, they sent him, and they gave him his blessings. And so he went there, and when he came out, he was then a pastor. He had some misgivings about Ekankar for quite a while, and then he was very tense about the whole situation, but after a while he got used to it, and he relaxed more, and then he recognized that his religion was for him and his parents' religion and the other siblings in the family, the other 4, himself and the other 1 were a Christian and 4 others were Ekist. He realized with the understanding, with great understanding and wisdom, that each group needed the religion they belonged to because it was good for their spiritual unfoldment. But one night Harriet had a dream. She's still here in the States. And in the dream, she was in the bathroom, and this son came to the door, and he said he had to talk to her. Now she said, "Well, can't you wait just a minute?" And he says, "No, now." He comes in, and he wanted a kiss, and so she kissed him. And then the dream faded away. Now Harriet was very curious, and she called back to her family, and she found that her son had been bitten by a very poisonous snake just at about the time that she had this dream. And so when the son had been bitten, he knew enough about the Ek teachings that he had come to say, "I want the Master's love and protection." And so very quickly he found the remedy that was necessary. He got the treatment needed. And so he suffered no lasting ill effects from it. And so Harriet was reading in the Ekankar Discourses, 3rd series of the Ek Satsang Discourses, this comes to members. And in chapter 5, how the Master works, she recognized the title as working in her life and helping her son overcome a very serious problem. And then she realized something more, that the Mahanta, the living Ek Master, isn't there just for Ekists. He's there for all souls.
Now, let's think about this for a moment. How often do we struggle searching for solutions in frustrations? We try to force things, rely on logic, and stress over life problems. But true wisdom doesn't come from struggle. It comes from allowing ourselves to be guided. This is the beauty of Ek teachings, the Holy Spirit, or what we call the light and sound of God. It always speaks to us. It's not just a concept, it's something real. It comes in flashes of insights, dreams, inner knowing, or even through a person's word at the right time. Take the story of a little boy who had the flute and saw colors. What was really happening? He wasn't imagining it. He perceived the divine sound and light of God, as soul just naturally does when it's open. This is the same force that guides us to the higher states of consciousness. Or look at Fred's experience. How did he see the exact location of the missing file? It wasn't just memory, but it was soul knowing. When we quiet our mind, when we sing you and listen with our inner ear, we tap into higher wisdom. This is the key to soul travel and to knowing beyond the physical. And Harriet's story. The Master's love isn't limited to Ekists alone, it extends to all souls. The beauty of true spiritual freedom. Religion doesn't define who receives guidance, souls does. When her son was in danger, he instinctively called upon the Mahanta's love and protection. The Mahanta is always working, preparing the ground, helping those who are seeking but don't yet know the way.
And in fact, the greatest work of the Master is often among the people who are between paths. So that when I say to you, go out and tell people about the teachings of Ek, the ground has been prepared. All you need to do is throw some seed on the ground, and nature will take care of the rest. Because when soul hears the music of God, it yearns, it longs for the return to its heavenly home, and nothing will prevent it. Nothing will stand in its way. No family connections, no dangers, no fears. The Master's love also works in everyday life with other things.
So what does this mean for you? If you have ever felt like something is missing, if you have longed for a deeper connection to truth, then maybe you are ready for this path. Maybe your soul is calling. Let me share my story. After my surgery, I remember feeling like my soul was searching for something more, and I knew something was missing. I was still a Christian then, truly seeking God, longing for a deeper connection. And when the time was right, I discovered Ekankar. The light and sound of God found me when I was ready. It was as if my soul had been waiting for this moment, for this understanding. The sound and light are always present. The Master's love is always here. But we must learn how to listen, how to receive. That's what Ek teachings offer. Real experience, real love, real wisdom. So open your heart, listen to the inner music of soul. Let it guide you to your next step. Pay attention because the journey of soul is always unfolding. If you found this interesting, please follow for more insights on spiritual freedom. Let's explore together. And thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. I love you all. Bye.